So right now, the online community of the Magic the Gathering trading card game is actively imploding over Wizards of the Coast's latest product release. So today let's talk about why that is, and whether something similar could happen in the miniature gaming space as well. What's up, folks? Welcome back to Tactical Tortoise. My name is Trevi, and today we're going to be talking about something a little different. Card games! So last week, Wizards of the Coast rolled out their latest release in the Secret Lair line of Magic the Gathering products. For those who don't know, Secret Lair products are exclusive, limited edition packs that release monthly and usually include 5 exclusive cards that are only available in that set. The cards in question typically feature unique alternate art and are highly valuable reprints, and the fact that each Secret Lair pack is printed to order and only available to order for a 24-hour period means that they can fetch the high price point of up to $50. I mentioned before that the cards included in these packs have always been reprints of existing cards. This means that the card itself is also available elsewhere, but the Secret Lair pack just has it with a cool alternate art. So if you really wanted to save your pennies and collect a generic version, you could just do that by buying the card from wherever it was originally printed. That changed this month, however, when Magic the Gathering released their newest Secret Lair pack, including 5 brand new, never-before-seen unique cards featuring characters from The Walking Dead TV show. Now, I think the reasons for the community's unrest at this situation are pretty clear, and the release has 2 major issues that people are specifically worried about. Firstly, the cards are mechanically unique, but not widely available. So if you want to include them in your deck but miss the pre-order window or don't live in an area they're available to, you just can't. So that sucks. And if you're watching this video, sorry, you've already missed the pre-order window since I am recording this on the last day that they are available to order. And the second issue that the community is worried about is it the cards? I mean, they're from The Walking Dead. Magic the Gathering has a long and storied lore behind it. A limitless multiverse built from the ground up by the Magic creative team starting early in the game's history. This universe has been engineered to give the game as much creative space within its specific niche as possible. Every world or plane visited by the game's characters falls somewhere into a low or high fantasy aesthetic, often with specific thematic conceits like a veneer of Greek mythology or gothic horror or fantasy steampunk. While narrative isn't the #1 focus of the game and often takes a backseat to its mechanics, as a kid, personally, I didn't even know that Magic the Gathering had an ongoing story. I thought it was just like a random collection of fantasy tropes all jumbled together. But the level of branding is still important. Regardless of the plane it hails from, an MTG card is still recognizable as an MTG card. So it's an understandably jarring possibility for someone to sit down to play their favorite game of knights and wizards fighting dragons and werewolves, only for some guy named Rick in a bomber jacket to shoot their planeswalker in the face with a Colt Python. This release also opens up the game to future crossover deals with potentially even less thematically appropriate IPs. While Magic the Gathering isn't brand new to crossovers, they featured alternate art cards in the past using characters from Godzilla and art styles aping other popular media forms, and even published sets of novel but completely competitively banned cards from My Little Pony and Dungeons & Dragons. And there's even a standard set in the D&D universe previewed for release next year. And while The Walking Dead as a gritty zombie survival story doesn't completely jar with Magic the Gathering aesthetically, what does the game look like when Wizards releases a standard legal set featuring characters from, I don't know, Star Wars or Marvel Comics or like Rick and Morty? And believe me, at this point, that's a question of when, not if. And so that brings me to the ultimate question of this video. Could this happen in the miniature gaming space? Would a company like Games Workshop sell out in this way to produce playable game pieces for their game taken entirely from another IP? Well, I think the answer is yes, and that process has already begun. Now, looking at miniature gaming as a whole, the question is of course a slightly different one from that of collectible card games. In a game like Magic the Gathering, the component standards for even casual play are light years more restrictive than they ever will be in a game like Warhammer 40k. In miniature games, player expression through customization of game pieces is a core concept of the genre. So forcing players to use unadulterated game pieces to represent characters or units is basically impossible. In 40k especially, there are actually no rules governing which models you can use to represent your troops. So were a powerful, mechanically unique character profile to come along, the miniature for which was only available for a limited time, like in the case of these Walking Dead trading cards for Magic, thousands of tabletop gamers would set about converting or recasting or resculpting those models for use in 40k games anyway. This is in stark contrast to Magic the Gathering, where ownership of the physical card itself is an inalienable prerequisite to actually using it in the game. Further compounding the issue is the close relationship of a miniature game's universe with its brand. As a less abstract medium than trading cards, creating a compelling narrative on the tabletop is vital to keeping the logic of your game consistent. Something that's hard to do when your aesthetics clash with a character that's shoved in from another company's IP. But it's also important to keep in mind how much more mature the TCG industry is than miniature gaming. Even though it's technically a lot older than Wizards of the Coast, Games Workshop and even the Warhammer brand is basically a quaint peasant dirt farmer compared with the lords of the tabletop gaming industry in companies like Hasbro. Magic the Gathering is the single most heavily developed game in human history, with aeons of collected experience and probably millennia of man-hours sunk into its R&D alone, all in service of one single game system. Its team has had to develop and publish hundreds of products every single year for decades, and the marketing practices developed to sell those products are light years ahead of anything in the miniature gaming market. So it's not surprising that Magic the Gathering has made this push well ahead of miniature games, but it doesn't mean that miniature games won't do so as well when they finally evolve to that same point. We're already seeing these warning signs in other games than 40k. Just this month, Night Models announced a Big Bang Theory crossover with characters from that sitcom dressed up as DC Universe characters, complete with unique character profiles for use in the DC Universe or Batman miniatures games. Additionally, for the last few years, Privateer Press, the creators of War Machine and Hordes, has released limited edition models in conjunction with external IPs such as Legend of the Five Rings and Conan the Barbarian for their mini crate subscription service. And while the models they include in these services don't have any intrinsic gameplay value, it's not hard to imagine that changing in the near future as the company continues to slowly lose its market share to GW and other competitors and looks to bump those mini-crate subscriptions. The ultimate question remains whether a company as fiercely protective of its IP as Games Workshop would sell out in this way and move to introduce external brands into its own tabletop games. Already, the company has begun to co-market licensed products and brand deals, such as the recent and frankly kind of bizarre partnership with World of Warships. I guess they both have like war in the name. But thus far, they've been resistant to incorporate external IP into their own products. But give Games Workshop a couple years of expansion and let their corporate leadership weigh the potential outreach that could result from a partnership from an even more popular intellectual property. And I think it's likely that Games Workshop will make the same decision that Wizards of the Coast just did. Again, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So that's the story for today. A little bit of a different style of video from what we normally do, but I'd like to hear from you if you like this style of content that's a little bit more broadly focused on the gaming industry as a whole, rather than just talking about Warhammer 40k all the time. Obviously, Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast as a huge player in the tabletop gaming industry, any changes in how they do business probably heralds similar changes down the road for other companies as everyone follows their example. The realities of some of these brand deals are also sort of hilarious to me. The Big Bang Theory one especially feels like extremely tone deaf. I don't know anyone who's enfranchised enough in the miniature gaming community to buy like limited edition, special edition sculpts who actually unironically enjoys Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory has always been to be something that, like, you know, your parents watch in like the Facebook, you know, best clip compilations when they're like scrolling through their timeline or whatever. Not something that's, you know, people actually go out of their way to enjoy. So that one's a little weird. Walking Dead also feels a little bit, I don't know, kind of old, I guess. I know they're coming out with a new show, but that show, you know, hasn't really been a cultural touchstone since like the Coral meme was a big deal. So that one's a little strange to me also. But it feels like an easy one for Wizards of the Coast to get their hands on to sort of cut their teeth while they work some bigger brand IPs into their deals in the future. But anyway, if you've watched this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Big thanks as well to all my patrons. They're being shown up on the screen here. Those people are just incredible and they're amazing. And if you want to join them, you can do so over at patreon.com/tacticaltortoise. Get all sorts of cool benefits as well. So that's pretty sick. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Hope everyone has a good one. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.